There are wounds that don't bleed but weigh heavy. And one of the hardest to carry is the pain of having raised someone with love, only to be met with indifference in return. If you've ever felt like you gave everything to your adult child, and now they only look your way when they need something, you're not alone. The most painful part isn't their absence, it's the silent doubt they leave behind. Where did I go wrong? But maybe you didn't go wrong. Maybe the real mistake was staying too long in a role that made you disappear. In this video, we're going to face some truths that might feel uncomfortable but could set you free. Because you deserve to live in peace, even if that means changing how you relate to the one you love the most. Stay with me until the end. The last lesson might not only bring you clarity, it might help you reclaim the respect you lost along the way. I'm Gabriel, and this is the Stoic Garden. We're not here to entertain, we're here to awaken. How long will you keep quiet about your pain just because you're afraid they'll say you're overreacting? How many more times will you justify something that's clearly breaking you inside? Because even if no one says it out loud, you know it. There are silences that have become routine and routines that have made you invisible. This is the first step on our journey, and it's called Break the Cycle of Silence that Made You Invisible. When an adult child stops calling, only shows up to ask for favors, or responds coldly to any attempt you make to connect, something inside you breaks. But the cruelest part isn't their attitude. It's the echo it leaves in your mind. That whisper telling you, maybe you deserve it. Maybe you're paying for past mistakes. Maybe if you'd done things differently, he'd be different. And that's how the cycle begins. You're hurt, but you stay silent. You're disappointed, but you don't confront him. He ignores you and you make excuses. And you do it out of love, out of fear, out of exhaustion, or out of hope that one day he'll be that son who once hugged you without conditions. But that day never comes. And meanwhile, you shrink. You learn to speak softly so you wouldn't be a bother, to expect nothing so you wouldn't hurt anymore, to always be available even when no one asks how you're doing. That's the cycle of silence, the same cycle so many women carry like it's just part of growing old. But it's not. It's not natural for a mother to have to beg for respect. It's not fair that you have to numb your pain just to preserve a relationship that's turned into emotional punishment. I remember a story a woman named Emily once told me. She was 72 with eyes that were both peaceful and tired. She said she felt like a chair in the house, always there, steady, useful, but no one ever sat down to listen. "I'm the emotional furniture of my family," she told me, and when I asked why she didn't talk about how she felt, her answer cut deep. "Because if I speak, they get angry. And if they get angry, they pull away. And if they pull away, who's left?" That's the cruelest trap of silence. It makes you believe it's the only way not to end up alone. But there's something worse than loneliness. Being surrounded by people who don't see you, don't hear you, and don't respect you. In Stoicism, Marcus Aurelius said, "Truth doesn't harm the one who speaks it, but it does expose the one who hears it." And maybe that's why we avoid saying it, because we know that speaking honestly might make others feel called out, but that shouldn't be your burden. Speaking truth isn't yelling or attacking. It's standing tall in your own story and saying, "What I feel matters. What hurts me has a name, and I deserve to be heard." Because as long as you stay quiet to keep others comfortable, you'll keep fading a little more every day. And you weren't born to be a shadow. Today I want to tell you that you have the right to break that cycle, to speak up even if your voice shakes, to say enough with strength even if no one claps. Because when you choose to be seen, you don't just change your relationship with your child, you change the way you see yourself. And in that new gaze, your true liberation begins. When a woman dares to break the silence that made her invisible, understanding isn't always what she finds. Sometimes, what she gets in return is judgment, distance, or an even deeper silence. But that doesn't mean she did something wrong. It means she touched a truth others aren't ready to face. And that's often the price of starting to live with honesty. But there's another cost, even more invisible, that many have been paying for years without realizing it: the cost of loving without respect. We've now reached the second key point of this video, and it's this: don't let love steal your self-respect. It sounds like a simple phrase, but within it lies centuries of confusion, especially for those raised to believe that being a mother means complete self-sacrifice. You grew up with the image of a woman who always gives, always understands, always forgives. And in that model of total devotion, you forgot that love also means knowing when to say enough. The problem is, when an adult child crosses the line of respect, when he yells, belittles, ignores, or manipulates, many women don't dare to set boundaries. Why? Because they confuse firmness with harshness and setting limits with stopping love. But that's not how it works. Respect isn't the opposite of love. It's the foundation. Without respect, what's left is dependency, fear, or routine disguised as affection. And you don't deserve that, not at this stage in life, not after everything you've given. Stoicism, in the words of Epictetus, reminds us that no one can harm you without your consent. That phrase isn't meant to blame you, it's meant to give you back your power. Because when you allow someone to humiliate or ignore you again and again, you start believing it's normal, that it's what you deserve, but it's not. Many times, when a mother demands respect from her adult child, he reacts with annoyance, sarcasm, or even distance. That's his way of defending his comfort zone. Because when you start setting boundaries, he has to face something he didn't expect, the reality of his own actions. But that doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It means you're starting to heal. And healing, as you well know, hurts. It hurts because it means breaking patterns that have been in place for decades. It hurts because it forces you to look at yourself and realize how much you've betrayed your own needs to maintain relationships that are no longer mutual. The root cause of all this lies in a false belief that has become an emotional trap, that a good mother puts up with everything. That idea has led thousands of women to normalize emotional mistreatment in the name of love. But there's a big difference between loving and disappearing just to hold on to a relationship. Your worth isn't measured by how much you can endure. It's measured by how much you respect yourself. And when you respect yourself, the love you offer becomes more real, more pure, more free. Think for a moment about all the times you stayed silent to avoid hurting someone, all the times you gave up your rest, your time, your peace, just to be there when he asked. And what did you get in return? A call that never comes, a hurtful comment, a constant feeling that you're always falling short, even after giving more than you had. That feeling isn't love, it's exhaustion. And constant exhaustion turns into anxiety, insomnia, that quiet sadness that settles in your body like an unwelcome guest. You're not here to justify the unjustifiable. You're here to remember that even as a mother, you're still a woman with needs, with dignity, with a right to be treated with respect, not just by strangers, but above all, by those you've loved the most. Love, at this stage in life, shouldn't hurt. It should hold you up. And if it doesn't, if it drags you down, if it dims your light, then it's not love. It's attachment. It's fear. It's an open wound that's long overdue for healing. Remember this, you're not failing for asking for respect. You're waking up. And when you wake up, though at first your hands may tremble and you may feel like you're breaking inside, something new begins to grow. A quiet strength, a deep clarity, a voice that's been waiting for years to be heard, your own. And that voice, believe me, has the power to change everything. After realizing that love without respect is a trap that only wears you down, an inevitable question arises. How do you stop falling into that trap without destroying the relationship? How can you keep being a mother without losing yourself in the process. We've now reached the third point of this video, and this is where things really begin to shift. Because the next step is easy to name, but hard to apply. Stop justifying what's already draining you. For years, you've told yourself maybe your son is stressed, maybe he didn't have a good childhood, maybe he's going through a rough patch. And all of that might be true. But there's a very clear line between understanding someone and allowing them to hurt you. Justifying the unjustifiable is a subtle form of self-abandonment. It's like living in a house that's falling apart, but convincing yourself every day that it's not that bad, at least the roof is still on. The truth is, as long as you keep finding excuses for emotional mistreatment, you'll stay trapped in a relationship that only offers crumbs disguised as affection. The strategy here isn't confrontation. It's not about demanding explanations or throwing blame. The key is discernment. In Stoicism, discernment means seeing things as they are, without decoration or illusion. Marcus Aurelius spoke of the ability to see the essential through the noise. And that's exactly what you need right now, to see without justifying, to feel without numbing, to name things without softening them. The next time your son speaks to you with disdain or ignores you for weeks only to show up when he needs something, don't repeat to yourself that he's just busy. Ask yourself if you truly deserve that treatment, not from guilt, but from truth. Think of it this way. Your emotional energy is like water in a pitcher. Every excuse you make for someone else is another hole in that container. And eventually, you find yourself empty, dry, with nothing left to give. The irony is that those who've drained you the most are often the ones who complain that you're not like you used to be. Of course you're not. You're exhausted from giving, from justifying, from waiting for someone to change who hasn't shown any intention of doing so. The first real act of self-love is to stop justifying what no longer makes sense. And when you do, even if it feels like betrayal at first, what you're really doing is coming back to yourself. This kind of discernment can begin in very simple ways. Every time you feel that tightness in your chest after a conversation or that quiet sadness after a message goes unanswered, pause, breathe, and say to yourself quietly, "This hurts, and I don't deserve it." You don't have to say it out loud. Just recognizing it to yourself is enough. That small gesture, repeated with intention, begins to unravel years of excuses. And the clearer you see what hurts, the less willing you are to keep accepting it. These words may be touching something inside you that's been waiting a long time to come out. And that's why I want to ask you something. If this message is speaking to you clearly, subscribe to the channel and hit like. Not out of courtesy, but because that's how you help me keep creating this space where we can talk about the things no one else dares to say. And tell me in the comments which country you're listening from. I'd love to know how far these truths are reaching. If you feel like this part reflects your story, write the phrase, "I no longer justify what breaks me." Sometimes, naming what hurts is the first step toward ending the pain. Stay with me, because what comes next goes even deeper. And the final lesson may be the hardest, but also the most freeing. No longer justifying what breaks you is an act of dignity. But once you let go of that burden, a more complex question emerges. What do I do with the space that's left? Because when you stop making excuses, you're left facing the emptiness that used to be filled with waiting, with hopes, with illusions. And that emptiness is uncomfortable. It's in that space where many women, without realizing it, fall into one of the most subtle and dangerous traps of this stage in life. We've reached the fourth point in this journey, and it's this. Not everyone called son deserves access to your soul. This may hurt, but it needs to be said, because too often the bond of blood becomes an emotional chain you don't know how to break. You've been a mother your whole life, and in your heart, that means caring, being there, staying close. But sometimes that bond gets twisted. And instead of being a relationship built on mutual love, it turns into a battlefield where you're always the one who loses. Without realizing it, you've given someone unlimited access to your inner world, someone who doesn't take care of it, doesn't respect it, and walks in and out of your life as if your emotions were just another piece of furniture in the house. The mental trap is this: believing that just because he's your son, he always has the right to everything from you: your time, your attention, your forgiveness, your emotional availability. But that right has turned into a license to hurt you without consequences, and you, out of love, out of hope, or out of fear of losing him, have allowed it. Because no one ever taught you that respect isn't inherited, it's built. That love doesn't mean leaving the doors of your soul wide open for someone who's entered too many times only to destroy. This is especially harmful because it becomes a silent mandate. If I close the door, I'm a bad mother. That idea is like a virus in your mind. Slowly, it weakens your sense of self. It makes you feel guilty for setting boundaries. It makes you doubt your right to protect yourself. And meanwhile, that adult son, maybe selfish, maybe emotionally immature, continues to take from your time, your thoughts, your emotions, as if they were his to claim. But your soul is no one's property. Your soul is sacred. And if someone, even someone who shares your blood, doesn't know how to respect it, then they don't deserve to be there. The most serious consequence of allowing that kind of unchecked access is spiritual exhaustion. There comes a point when you no longer know who you are outside of that relationship. You don't know what you want, what you need, what makes you feel alive. Because your identity has been swallowed by a role that demands your presence but offers no care in return. Many women reach old age feeling empty, not because they're alone, but because they've allowed others to occupy every corner of their being, leaving no room for themselves. And that's a slow way to disappear. But this can change, and it doesn't require shouting, blaming, or dramatic breakups. It requires an inner decision. From today on, my soul belongs to me. And that doesn't mean you stop loving. It means you love with clarity, with intention. It means you can still be available, but not unconditionally. You can listen, but not tolerate disrespect. You can show up, but not at the cost of betraying yourself. Because self-respect isn't a wall. It's a door with a lock, and only you get to decide who comes in. After realizing that not everyone called son deserves access to your soul, the next question naturally follows. How should you act now? How do you offer support without surrendering yourself? How do you love without disappearing? This is where many women fall into the same old trap. They believe that being needed is the only way to be valued. But we've reached the fifth point in this video, and today I want to say it clearly. Teach him through your example, not through your sacrifice. For far too long, you were taught that the way to be heard is to give everything. That if you sacrifice enough, if you're always available, if you silence your own pain for someone else's comfort, then one day it will all be recognized. But the truth is very different. Constant sacrifice doesn't lead to gratitude. It leads to dependency, complacency, and even contempt. Because if you don't place yourself first, why would he? Clinging to that version of love only deepens your frustration. It turns you into someone who holds everyone else up, but doesn't support herself. And that, over time, wears you down. It leaves you silently resentful. It makes you live hoping for scraps of appreciation that never arrive. And the most dangerous part? Without realizing it, you're teaching the wrong lesson. You're showing your son that it's okay to ask without giving, to take without thanking, to receive without looking back. You're not leading by example. You're shaping him through a lack of boundaries. But this can change. Not through speeches, not through begging, through presence, through a new way of showing up. Imagine for a moment that one day you decide to shift the dynamic, that instead of always being available, You choose to respond only when it truly feels right. That instead of rushing in to fix everything, you hand back the responsibility for his life. That instead of staying silent to avoid conflict, you speak calmly but firmly. That's example. That's impact. That's how change begins, at the root. The mindset you need to adopt is this: you don't have to prove your love to anyone. You've already given it. You've already shown it. You've already done what many would never have dared. Now it's time to show that you also know how to love yourself. Because only then do you teach true respect. Only then might he one day see you with new eyes, not as the woman who saved him over and over, but as the woman who chose to save herself. And that, believe me, is far more powerful. Don't expect instant change. Don't seek gratitude in every action. Do it for you, because you're at a stage in life where you can no longer afford to live waiting for someone else to recognize your worth. It's time to act like you already know it, to carry yourself as if your peace is not up for negotiation. Because only from that steady, grounded, autonomous place can you begin to rewrite your story. And if he doesn't change, at least you'll no longer be breaking yourself to hold together what can't be held. That alone is a form of liberation. After understanding that respect is built through example, not sacrifice, an uncomfortable but necessary question comes into focus, one many have avoided for years. What if it's too late to change? What if I've gotten used to living this way? This isn't about self-deception or empty optimism. It's about an urgent truth. The time you have left isn't endless. And the real question isn't whether you can change, but whether you're willing to, even if it hurts. That's why we've arrived at the 6th point in this video, and its title is as uncomfortable as it is essential. Make detachment a form of love. Imagine for a moment that you have only 2 years left to live. That's it. 24 months, 104 weeks. There's no illness or tragedy, just a certainty. Would you keep living exactly as you are now, waiting for calls that never come, begging for respect with every gesture of, "I'm here if you need me," letting your peace depend on someone who doesn't even see you? It's harsh, but necessary. Because if the answer is no, then something has to change, and it has to change now. The detachment we're talking about isn't coldness. It's not cutting ties out of spite or masking indifference as strength. It's a kind of love that doesn't hurt. It's knowing you can still care but not lose yourself, that you can still be present but not tolerate abuse, that you can still be a mother but not at the expense of your emotional well-being. Detachment is, in truth, the most mature way to love when the bond has become an open wound. What happens when you don't practice it is all too clear. Frustration becomes routine. You wake up with the same emotional fatigue, go to bed with that feeling of having been useful but not valued. You start to believe that this is just how life is, that growing older means settling. But it's not. That's not living. It's surviving, and you deserve to live. Every day you spend trapped in that emotional dependency is one less day of freedom. And if you don't stop it, no one else will. Because those who benefit from your constant giving won't give it up willingly. There's a hard truth I sometimes repeat to myself to stay grounded. Love that hurts every day isn't love. It's habit, it's fear, it's emotional debt gone unmanaged. And that kind of love doesn't just destroy your present, it erases your story. Because when the years pass and you look back, you'll wonder if you truly lived, or if you were just someone else's emotional support system. Detachment is letting go of questions that were never answered. It's stopping the search to understand someone who doesn't want to be understood. It's giving yourself permission to breathe without guilt. And above all, it's choosing yourself. Not out of selfishness, but from the deepest truth that your soul needs care too, that your body deserves rest, that your voice has the right to be heard. Change begins the day you accept that you've already given enough, that giving more isn't love, it's self-neglect. And when that clarity arrives, though it may hurt at first, what follows is lightness, a clean silence, new space, the beginning of a life that finally revolves around you, not around someone who decides if you're worth their attention today. And that life is still within reach. If you choose to take it, after understanding that detachment can be a form of love, something inside you begins to realign. You no longer need to convince yourself that pain means commitment or that your quiet devotion will someday be recognized. Because when you let go with awareness, you free yourself from the burden of having to be everything to everyone. But here, at this point in the journey, there's an even harder truth to face. And that is that, many times, the only thing holding you back from change isn't what others do, it's what you refuse to accept. That's why we've come to the 7th point of this video, and its name should be etched in your mind. Be the woman who no longer needs to be validated. You don't need anyone to tell you that you did well. You don't need your son to recognize everything you gave. You don't need late applause, apologies that never came, or explanations that no longer matter. What you need, now more than ever, is to reclaim a clear, honest view of yourself. Because as long as you keep waiting to be understood, you'll keep living from a wound. And a wound doesn't lead, it only bleeds. Today, you have the chance to do something different. To stop living as if loving too much was a mistake and start living as if you own every one of your days. There's no room for self-deception here. If your adult son disrespects you, uses you, only shows up when he needs something, you are not obligated to tolerate it. And if you keep justifying, waiting, or giving without limits, you're not being generous, you're delaying your own rebirth. It's no longer about whether he changes, it's about whether you're willing to change how you show up in the world. Because let me say this clearly, no one is coming to rescue you. No one will give you permission to choose yourself. That permission is yours to give, and only when you do does real transformation begin. This is the moment to see yourself with wide open eyes, to accept your story without embellishment, to own the decisions you made and the ones you avoided. Because transformation doesn't happen when someone else wakes up. It happens when you decide to stop living according to their awareness. You weren't born to be anyone's shadow. You weren't meant to constantly explain your worth. You came here to live, to bloom, to hold your soul with strength, even when others fail to recognize it. Be the woman who no longer needs to be validated, because in that quiet yet radical act lies all the freedom you deserve. And if you've made it this far, it means you already sense it. Something in you has already started to awaken. Don't stop halfway. The life you want won't come from outside. It's waiting inside you. All it takes is for you to believe it, to allow it, to claim it, without permission, without guilt, without fear. If you've made it this far, you know this wasn't comfort wrapped in soft words. It was a mirror. And not everyone dares to hold that gaze until the end. Because seeing your life exactly as it is, without filters or excuses, takes more courage than pretending everything is fine. But that's the point of this space. We're not here to tell you what you want to hear. We're here to remind you of what, deep down, you already know. That no one but you can decide how to live this chapter, which wounds to carry, and what boundaries to draw as you begin again. If something in you shifted today, if you saw your own story in every word, then this video has already served its purpose. And I thank you for that, because not many make it this far. I want you to leave a comment with the phrase, "I've chosen my peace," along with the country you're listening from. It's a way to know who's ready to stop justifying, stop explaining, and stop draining themselves. Because you're not alone, even if it feels that way sometimes. There are many of us, and we're awake. My name is Gabriel, and this is the Stoic Garden. Not a channel, not a brand, not entertainment. A voice, firm, direct, unfiltered. created for women who have given so much they nearly forgot themselves, but who still have the clarity to take back their direction. This space exists to remind you that your respect is non-negotiable, your peace is not for sale, and your story can still be rewritten, not from regret, but from strength. If this message spoke to you with truth, subscribe now. Not out of habit, but because you're done sleepwalking through life. Because this isn't just another corner of the internet, it's a community of women who've decided to stop staying silent. Share this video with someone who needs it too, even if they haven't said it out loud. Sometimes, a single sentence can change the course of a life. And don't leave just yet. On screen, you'll see 2 more videos that can help you keep going deeper on this path. Maybe there, you'll find the next question you need to ask yourself, or the answer you've been waiting for. We're still here, with truth, with respect, with direction.